Hello, everybody. It's Sylvie. Welcome back to Tarot Magpie. I hope you are doing all kinds of good. Today is the first. This is a voiceover, actually, in case that wasn't blatantly obvious. This is the first thing I'm recording this side of the new year. So happy 2024. I know I've had a couple videos go up already, but those were pre-filmed. So yeah, I hope the new year is treating you right. And today's video is going to be the 5Ws tag, which is a VR to Brian Cormac Carr. I know he created this, I want to say back in November. I am, as ever, late to the party, but this one was going to be very visually boring. So I have recorded me updating my tarot journals to hopefully be a little bit more visually interesting. Or, of course, you can stick me on in the background while you go about your day, podcast style. So with that said, I am going to get straight into the questions. I am kind of picking and choosing from some of the example questions that he gave. And I thought this was a really fun one. And I love to chat, I love to ramble, I love to talk about my tarot practice. So let us get into it. First W being who. Who first turned you on to tarot? And I actually don't know who turned me on to tarot. I don't think there really was any one person or any one situation. Nobody I knew in real life was into it. I had to keep it quiet for a bit when I first started getting into it, but I think really I just thought it looked cool. I started researching. Google is everyone's best friend, right? And yeah, I guess I turned myself on to tarot, maybe. And then who's your favorite deck creator or tarot author? And for this, I absolutely have to say Charlie Claire Burgess, hands down. I feel like I haven't shut up about that book, Radical Tarot, since I got it for my birthday back in September, shortly after it released. But the book is just so good. I love their writing style, both in this book as well as the guidebook for the Fifth Spirit Tarot, which I have and adore and also talk about a lot. I also really like their blog posts and the stuff they put on Instagram. Charlie Claire Burgess for sure. So Radical Tarot, I'm so excited about the book. I feel like their view of the world and the system of tarot and how they view that is really on the same wavelength as mine. And so it's just so exciting for me to read their stuff. And I'm also really excited to receive the Gay Marseille, which I think we had an email, I backed it on Kickstarter, and there was an update recently, and I think it's in production, or the green flag has been given to put it in production. So that I think is set to come to me in March or April, which is very exciting. So yes, Charlie Claire Burgess. Prompt number 2, what do I love most about tarot? Okay, the structure. I love the structure of tarot. I love the fact that it has a structure. I mean, it has several structures if you want to really get into it, and that draws me in so much. It just tickles the way my brain works. I am kind of obsessed with the ideas and the way we conceptualize things into categories, as people. I just think it's really interesting, and tarot does that. So it has the structure itself, like the 78, the numerology, the astrology. Those are on their own different structures and different factors which can be studied and understood. And then on top of that, the fact that the Tarot 78 has been created with rules like numerology and the different suits, it means you can really dig into different facets of that structure to deconstruct it and reconstruct it to suit your individual practice. And then you can also look at it on a zoomed out macro level and consider the community perspective as a broad community. Everyone who reads with tarot or writes a book or creates a deck or makes a YouTube video is taking part in this ongoing collective practice of what the tarot and its structures mean. We are on a community level forever reconstructing and maintaining the structure of the tarot and what it means. And so yeah, I love it. If you can't tell, I love it. The concept of how we structure and organize things, top tier special interest from me. And I guess that's what I love most about the tarot and the thing that is most compelling to me about the tarot. And then another what question is, what is a deck I am working with at the moment? And that is my monthly study deck, the Herb Crafters Tarot, which you should be seeing me update in my tarot journal at the moment. I mentioned this pretty recently I say pretty recently, I mentioned this, December was a blur, right? I think it was in December, I did the 5 tarot decks challenge, and I mentioned the Herb Crafters as a deck I have been putting off working with. So I decided to dive into it for Capricorn season, because also it's an earthy deck and an earthy sign, and I'm really loving it so far. The Herb Crafters is great. Don't know what I was waiting for, to be honest. The third W is when. When did I first encounter tarot? And truly, who even knows at this point? Like I kind of mentioned, I've no idea who turned me on to tarot. I've no idea when I first encountered it. It has kind of existed in my cultural peripheral vision for about as long as I can remember. It's something that's popped up in movies or, just generally something I've been aware of. And it's something I've encountered a fair bit online since my teens. Like I say, Google is a wonderful thing. I think we probably want to blame Tumblr for that as well, not gonna lie. And as for encountering tarot in real life, I know I came across some decks in a crystal shop when I was about 20, and I was very intrigued, and I really wanted to kind of I wanted to get into tarot since then, but I knew too many judgmental people, so I kind of just read about tarot, Googled it, looked at pictures online, tried to learn the tarot a bit without actually having a tarot deck, and it took me a couple of years to actually get my first deck. And then, like I say, judgmental people, I was on and off with it, and then it was a couple more years before I kind of got over that feeling uncomfortable and feeling self-conscious about it. So when did I first encounter tarot? Long story short, too long didn't read, I don't know. But when did I first encounter tarot in real life was my early 20s, I think. When did you first start to take tarot seriously? So like I say, I started learning when I was about 20, in my early 20s. I got my first deck in my early 20s. I had a bit of a break and I was kind of dabbling in tarot. And then maybe when I was about 25, I really dove into it head first. And it's been 4 or 5 years-ish that I have been reading tarot and pulling cards regularly. Most days, I don't kind of put it to one side and forget about it. I haven't done that in over probably about 4 or 5 years. So I guess you'd say I started taking it seriously when I was 25. I took it seriously before that, but I took it seriously in kind of inconsistent bursts. Does that make sense? It can be difficult for me with the brain that I've got to be long-term focused on something. So I was taking tarot seriously prior to that, but I would be putting it down and picking it up and feeling like I kind of had to start over. Whereas I think I was about 25 when I just started. I took it long-term seriously. When did you last have a significant tarot experience? Literally last week, but I will not be sharing those details because that's my business. But yeah, I'm always surprised by how frequently and how significant tarot can actually be, because I definitely lean more toward the psychological school of tarot rather than the the idea of channeling anything or using it to communicate with spirit or a deity or anything. So I am almost surprised by how often I do have really significant tarot experiences. It's very cool. Tarot is very cool. Okay, where were you when you did your first serious reading? I truly have no idea. Sorry. Realistically, I was at home on my desk. It was probably nothing super exciting. Yeah, I was at my desk. That's really all there is to it. And in a similar vein, where do you carry out readings and tarot practices now? Mostly at my desk, to be honest. But truly anywhere, where don't I carry out readings and my tarot practice? I'll take my tarot anywhere. over the summer, I really enjoyed taking my decks outside and doing my regular readings, as well as some like deck study stuff outside in the garden, literally whenever I was able to, because where I'm living at the moment, we have a private garden space, which I was really missing before I moved here. And so I was taking advantage of it and sitting in the sun with my decks. I started working with Mary Kay Greer's Tarot for Yourself workbook with the Tarot Volatile over the summer. I was doing that outside. That was really cool. But also, like I say, where don't I read? I read on trains, I read at pubs, I pull my cards out in coffee shops, literally anywhere. I'm not fussy about like setting up a sacred space because, like I've said, tarot is more on the psychological than the sacred side of things for me. And like, yeah, I see my cards as a tool, not as something precious. This is partly so that I don't get too precious and start getting scared of using my stuff, and like the idea of damaging it. But also, I am firmly against. I'm going on a bit of a rant now, sorry. I don't know where this came from. I'm firmly against the idea of cleansing my decks like every 5 minutes and cleansing my decks every time I pull them out for a reading. Like this idea of trying to stop them from coming into contact with any energy. I that and like you do you. I'm not trying to shit on anyone's practice, but I don't know, that feels weird to me. Like I don't want an empty deck. I feel like it's like seasoning, like a little bit of rogue pub garden energy. It's probably good for my deck. And in my opinion, that's what shuffling is for. So yeah, I read with my decks anywhere because I'm not precious about them as physical items, and I'm not precious about them picking up on rogue bits of energy. And I can always reset my deck if I feel like that is needed, but I'll take my cards anywhere and I'll read them anywhere. The next one is, where do you store your decks? And I'm going to keep this kind of brief because I'm planning on doing a video on this. It's a VR2 Avery Fawcett, I think. But basically, most of them are in a mini trolley thing from IKEA because I am a millennial, and so everything I fucking own is from IKEA. But most of my decks are in that trolley. I rotate them out so that I've got like a basket next to my desk with my seasonal decks. You'll have seen that if you watch any of my like decks for autumn, decks for winter kind of videos. And again, I'm not precious about how I store them. I take care of them. I keep them out of the sun. I keep them away from places which I know get kind of cold and damp in my house. But there's no ceremony about how I store them. They are just, they're tools. I want to keep them in good condition, but I'm not doing anything ritualistic with how I store them personally. And then the final W, the fifth W, is why. Why do I love tarot? And why do I continue to study it? And for this, I would like to refer you back to my monologue on the tarot structure back in the what question. So yeah, essentially why do I continue to study it? Because of the way that it is possible to be constantly deepening my practice and how I interpret it and how I interpret the cards. Like that is ever shifting as I, as a person, grow and change and have new ideas and think differently about things, as well as with every new deck that I encounter, every tarot book that I read, every tarot tube video that I watch is constantly kind of shifting my practice. It's a very like dynamic thing, and that is why I continue to study it, because the way that I engage with tarot, it's impossible to not be studying it. Like I haven't just learned tarot meanings and that's that. Like the joy of tarot is in the constant way it's shifting and the constant way I'm kind of restructuring it to suit my practice and to reflect the world that I live in. And then the other answer to that question, why do I love tarot? Why do I study it? Is simply because creators keep coming out with incredible decks and I want to play with them. It's really hard not to love something that so many people are really passionate about and always creating new art and writing new books. Like that is so inspiring on a collective level and on a personal level at the same time. it's kind of infectious. Like, I think if you've taken a step into something like tarot on YouTube and seeing people have conversations about it, I think it's really hard not to get drawn in by how passionate people are about tarot. I think it's really cool. And then finally, why do I think tarot is important and helpful? And my answer to that, at least the way that I do it, is because tarot is this opportunity or means for understanding. And I think what is really important is that it's not exclusively personal, internal understanding. Like, I keep mentioning this collective aspect to the meaning of tarot, what tarot means, because those meanings are all, they're pictures that were drawn and meaning has been applied to them, and that meaning is constantly expanding and changing as we as a community keep reading tarot. To try and explain myself, when you read books or you read with different decks, you are taking in and using different perspectives for the tarot, which inform how you read the cards going forward. So you read a new book, it has a new slant on a particular card that you've not thought of before, and that is kind of in your mental bank of how you're going to read those cards going forward. So, like I say, I like the psychological side of tarot, and I think tarot helps you understand yourself and make your own personal decisions, and I think it's really, really valuable for that. But when you're engaging in, or at least for me, when I feel like I am engaging in an ongoing practice of learning and expanding and redefining the tarot, I'm accessing lots of different perspectives in doing that. And I think that in and of itself is important and helpful, because the only way I am able to do that is because I have access to all these different perspectives and ideas and experiences that I haven't personally experienced. So yes, it helps me understand myself. Reading the cards helps me work through my own problems or think through things, but also it gives me a bit of a glimpse into understanding other people's experiences and ideas and thoughts. And I know that access to a lot of different books and access to a lot of different decks is not something that everybody is able to have. But I think even just watching YouTube and scrolling through Instagram and seeing what everyone brings to the tarot, like, has that same impact. And yeah, I feel like I got way too deep again with that answer, but I just feel very strongly, I feel very strongly that if we only use the tarot as this kind of like flashcard, learn keywords, get answers, like input, output kind of thing, I think, and like, again, no shade to anybody, it's a personal practice, use the cards how you want, that's your business. But I think that if that's all you do, if you learn that the Two of Cups means new relationships and that's as far as you ever take it, I think you're missing out on so much of what you can do with the tarot. And again, if people aren't interested in that, they're not interested in that, and that's fine. I'm not trying to tell anybody that the way they use the tarot is wrong, but I think that's the opinion that a lot of people who don't read tarot or don't really get it, people who've only seen it in movies, I think that's kind of all they think it is. And so, like I say, I've known a lot of judgmental people in my life. I still know a lot of judgmental people. And I can get quite defensive of how tarot can actually be really valuable and really important. I think it's much more than trying to like fortune tell with keywords. Maybe that's why I don't read predictively. Not because I think you can't or like shouldn't predict the future. That's just never been what I think is juiciest about the tarot. Yeah, that's really interesting, actually. That's the first time I've connected those dots in my head. Because I often say, like, I don't really read predictively. I'm just not particularly interested in reading predictively as opposed to doing other stuff with the tarot. Anyway, thank God I filmed these videos, or I would miss out on connecting so many dots while I sit in my bedroom talking to myself. Anyway, with that, that is all my answers to the questions in this tag. I hope you've enjoyed this. I think this is really interesting, and I have a lot to catch up on of people who've done this tag, because I have, for the most part, tried not to watch everybody else's answers before I got around to filming my own. So that's what I'm going to do this evening, is sit down and listen to people talk about their practice. These are some of my favorite tags to film, because I like to get into why I think the way that I think about things. Anyhow, I will leave you there. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you again to Brian Cormac Carr for coming up with this tag. I think it's really cool. And that is it from me. I really hope you've enjoyed. Thank you for making it this far in the video. If you have, give me a like if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't already. Drop me a comment down below. Talk to me about your tarot practice, because as you can tell, it's what I love. So I will leave you there, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.